The highway stretched endlessly beneath the golden afternoon sun as Emily's sleek black car glided along the asphalt. The air-conditioned silence inside the vehicle felt almost too perfect. No noise, no interruptions, no space for emotion. Emily adjusted her sunglasses, glancing briefly at her reflection in the rearview mirror. Everything about her screamed success. Tailored suit, diamond earrings, confidence in every motion. She was on her way to finalize one of the biggest business deals of her career, a merger that would add another fortune to her already overflowing wealth. Yet, beneath the polished surface, there was something heavy, a quiet loneliness that money could never buy away. The silence shattered when the car gave a sudden, violent jerk. The engine sputtered, coughed, and then went dead. Emily's heart skipped. No, 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 she muttered, steering the car to the shoulder of the highway. The once smooth hum was replaced by the sound of wind sweeping over the open road. She tried restarting the engine, nothing. Her patience wore thin as she slammed her hand on the steering wheel. Perfect, just perfect. She stepped out of the car, the hot wind brushing against her face as she looked around. The highway stretched in both directions, empty. No traffic, no gas stations, just a vast expanse of land and the hum of cicadas. For someone used to being in control, the feeling of helplessness was foreign and irritating. Pulling out her phone, she sighed when there was no signal. Great, billionaire stranded in the middle of nowhere, she murmured, sarcasm dripping in her tone. Minutes passed, maybe even an hour. Emily leaned against her car, frustrated, when she finally saw a dusty old pickup truck approaching in the distance. Relief mixed with hesitation as it slowed down beside her. The driver stepped out, a tall man in a faded blue shirt, grease stains on his hands, a calm expression on his sun-tanned face. "Car trouble?" he asked, his voice deep and steady. Emily's brows furrowed. Something about his voice tugged at a memory she couldn't quite place. "Yes," she replied shortly, trying to maintain her usual poise. "It just stopped working. I was on my way to a meeting." The man nodded, walking to the front of the car. "Pop the hood," he said simply. His tone was confident, practiced, someone who knew what he was doing. As he examined the engine, Emily studied him quietly. He looked familiar in a strange, distant way, the shape of his jaw, the curve of his smile when he found the problem. And then, it hit her. "Wait, Jake?" she asked, her voice softening with disbelief. He looked up, surprised, wiping his hands on a rag. "Yeah, Emily." For a moment, both of them just stared, the billionaire and the mechanic, two worlds colliding on a lonely stretch of highway. Time seemed to fold back, taking them to classrooms, laughter, and dreams they once shared. Emily couldn't help but smile faintly. "I can't believe it's you." Jake chuckled, shaking his head. "Guess life's full of surprises, huh?" And just like that, the silence between them wasn't awkward anymore. It was a quiet reminder that sometimes, fate had its own plans. Jake leaned over the car engine, his movements confident and calm, as if the years had only deepened his patience. Emily stood nearby, arms folded, her polished heels crunching lightly against the gravel. The smell of oil and warm metal filled the air while the soft breeze tugged at her hair. Watching him work stirred something unexpected, a sense of nostalgia she hadn't felt in years. It was strange to see him like this, hands steady, clothes rough, face lined with sunlight and effort. Back in high school, Jake had been the quiet boy who sat by the window, sketching engines in his notebook. While everyone else was talking about college dreams, she had always admired his focus, though she never admitted it aloud. He straightened up, glancing at her with a small smile. "You haven't changed much," he said, half teasing, half serious. "Still look like the girl who sat in the front row and answered every question before anyone else could." Emily laughed, caught off guard. "And you're still the boy who barely spoke a word unless it was about cars." He grinned. "Some things don't change." For a moment, the air between them softened. The formality she carried everywhere, the confidence, the guarded pride, seemed to fade. Here she wasn't Emily the billionaire, the CEO, or the woman who built an empire. She was just Emily, the small-town girl who used to dream big and believed anything was possible. Jake wiped his hands and leaned against the truck, watching her. "So, what brings you out here? I figured someone like you travels with a driver or at least a better car than this one." She shrugged, smiling faintly. I guess I just needed to feel normal for once. Driving myself. No meetings, no schedules. Just the road and my thoughts. He nodded knowingly. Yeah, I get that. Life gets too loud sometimes. The way he said it made her realize how peaceful his world seemed, even with its simplicity. He lived without the constant noise of expectations. There was no boardroom, no pressure, no pretending. Just honest work and quiet satisfaction. She envied that in ways she never thought she could. As he tinkered under the hood again, she looked around his truck, the worn leather seats, the toolbox, the old thermos on the dashboard. Everything about it spoke of a life built by hand, not by deals or luck. You've done well for yourself, she said softly. I remember you used to talk about opening your own workshop. Jake chuckled. Yeah, I did. Took a while, but I got there. Small place near town. Fix engines, restore old cars. It's not much, but it's mine. Emily smiled, genuinely. That's worth more than you think. He looked at her, and for a second, their eyes held, the weight of years, choices, and unspoken things hanging between them. The sound of the wind filled the silence, carrying the ghosts of what could have been. Jake finally broke the moment with a quiet laugh. Well, looks like your engine's just overheated. Give it a few minutes, and you'll be back on the road. Emily nodded but didn't move. She didn't want to leave just yet. Somehow, standing there on that quiet highway with him felt more real than any meeting or deal waiting ahead. The sun had begun to dip low on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and soft gold. Emily stood beside her car, now purring steadily after Jake's repair. The breeze had cooled, carrying with it the faint scent of dust and gasoline, oddly comforting in its simplicity. She turned to Jake, who was closing his toolbox and wiping his hands on an old rag. There was a sense of stillness between them, a quiet understanding that words could never fully express. Thank you, she said sincerely. Not just for fixing the car, for being here. Jake smiled, his eyes warm. You'd do the same if you saw an old friend stuck on the side of the road, right? Emily chuckled softly. Maybe. Though I'd probably call someone else to do the fixing part. He laughed, and for a moment, they both just stood there, sharing an easy, genuine connection, one untouched by time or status. The years apart seemed to melt away, leaving only two people who once shared a simpler world. Do you ever miss it? Jake asked suddenly, his tone thoughtful. Before all the success, before all the pressure. Emily hesitated. Every day, she admitted. I thought success would make me happy, that money and recognition would fill everything I was missing. But it's strange. The higher you go, the lonelier it gets. You start missing things you didn't even appreciate before. People, laughter, quiet moments like this. Jake nodded, understanding more than she expected. I figured that's how it might be. You spend your life chasing something and forget to enjoy the drive. His words struck something deep within her. She looked at him, at his calm, content expression, the way he carried himself with quiet pride. He wasn't rich by the world's standards, but he looked complete in a way she hadn't felt in years. You seem happy, she said softly. I am, he replied simply. Life's not perfect, but it's honest. I've got my little shop, good coffee in the morning, a few old friends who drop by to talk nonsense. It's enough. Emily smiled wistfully. It sounds perfect. Jake shrugged. Maybe not perfect, just real. The sky darkened slowly, and the first stars began to appear. Emily glanced at her car, then back at Jake. Part of her wanted to stay, to talk a little longer, to remember what it felt like to just be. But reality was waiting, as it always did. I should go, she said softly. Jake nodded. Yeah, you probably should. That big world won't run itself. She smiled, though it felt bittersweet. You take care of yourself, Jake. He gave a small wave. You too, Emily. And, don't forget to slow down once in a while. She paused, looking at him one last time before getting into her car. As she drove away, she saw him in the rearview mirror, standing beside his old truck, hands in his pockets, watching the road. For the first time in a long time, Emily felt something shift inside her, a reminder that true wealth wasn't found in money, but in moments like these, in people who reminded you where you came from. The road ahead stretched endlessly, but now, it didn't feel lonely anymore.